Hey kids! Welcome to Faith Tunes World, where Bible adventures come alive through fun and colorful animation. Today we're going to meet a boy named Joseph and see how God was with him through some really tough times and some really awesome times. Our story starts with Joseph, who lived with his father Jacob and his 11 older brothers. Jacob loved all his sons, but Joseph was special to him. To show his love, Jacob gave Joseph a beautiful, amazing coat of many colors. It had reds, blues, yellows, greens. It was magnificent. Joseph loved his new coat and wore it everywhere. But his brothers, well, they weren't so happy. They saw that their father loved Joseph the most, and it made them feel very jealous. On top of that, Joseph started having some very interesting dreams. In one dream, he and his brothers were tying up bundles of wheat in a field. Suddenly, Joseph's bundle stood up tall, and his brothers' bundles all gathered around and bowed down to it. In another dream, he saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all bowing down to him. When Joseph told his brothers about these dreams, they got even angrier. "What?" they said. "Do you think you were going to be our king and we'll all bow down to you?" Their jealousy grew stronger every day. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were taking care of the sheep far away. When the brothers saw Joseph coming from a distance in his colorful coat, they came up with a terrible plan. "Here comes the dreamer!" They sneered. They wanted to get rid of him. They grabbed poor Joseph, took off his beautiful coat, and threw him into a deep, empty pit. It must have been so scary and lonely down there. Joseph probably wondered what was happening and why his own brothers were doing this to him. While Joseph was in the pit, a group of travelers heading to a faraway land called Egypt passed by. One of the brothers, Judah, had an idea. Instead of leaving Joseph in the pit, he suggested they sell him to the travelers. And that's exactly what they did. The travelers paid them, and they took Joseph with them all the way to Egypt, a strange and new place he had never seen before. To cover up what they had done, the brothers took Joseph's colorful coat, dipped it in animal blood, and took it back to their father Jacob. "We found this," they said. "Is it Joseph's coat?" Jacob recognized it immediately and was heartbroken. He thought a wild animal had attacked Joseph. He was so sad and cried for his son for a very, very long time. He had no idea Joseph was actually alive. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph was sold again, this time to a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was a very important official who worked for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Even though Joseph was far from home and working as a servant, he didn't give up. He worked hard, did his best at every task, and was always honest. God was with Joseph, and everything Joseph did was successful. Potiphar noticed this. He saw that Joseph was trustworthy and capable, so he put him in charge of his entire household. Joseph was now managing everything in Potiphar's house, and everything went smoothly. But trouble found Joseph again. Potiphar's wife lied about Joseph, and Potiphar, believing her, got very angry. He had Joseph thrown into prison. Can you believe it? From a beloved son to a servant, and now a prisoner. It seemed like things just kept getting worse. But even in the dark, cold prison, Joseph was not alone. God was still with him. Joseph remained kind and helpful, and soon the prison warden noticed how special he was. Just like Potiphar, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. While in prison, Joseph met 2 of Pharaoh's workers, his chief cupbearer and his chief baker. One night, they both had very strange dreams, and were worried about what they meant. Joseph, with God's help, was able to tell them the meaning of their dreams. He told the cupbearer that in 3 days, he would be freed and get his job back with Pharaoh. And he told the baker that, in 3 days, his life would end. Everything happened exactly as Joseph had said. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph asked him, "When you're back with Pharaoh, please remember me and help me get out of this prison." But sadly, the cupbearer forgot all about Joseph. 2 whole years went by. Joseph was still in prison, waiting and trusting God. Then, one night, Pharaoh himself had 2 very troubling dreams. In the first dream, 7 fat, healthy cows came out of the Nile River, Then 7 skinny, unhealthy cows came out and ate the healthy ones. In the second dream, he saw 7 full, healthy heads of grain growing on one stalk. Then, 7 thin, withered heads of grain sprouted and swallowed up the healthy ones. Pharaoh woke up very worried. He called all his wise men and magicians, but no one could tell him what his dreams meant. That's when the cupbearer finally remembered. He told Pharaoh, "There's a young man in prison who explained my dream perfectly. His name is Joseph." Pharaoh immediately sent for Joseph. Joseph was brought from the prison to stand before the mighty Pharaoh. Pharaoh told him about the dreams. Joseph listened carefully and said, "I cannot interpret the dreams, but God can." He then explained that the 2 dreams meant the same thing. The 7 healthy cows and 7 healthy heads of grain meant there would be 7 years of great harvest and plenty of food all over Egypt. But the 7 skinny cows and 7 withered heads of grain meant that after those 7 years, there would be 7 years of terrible famine, with no food at all. Joseph didn't just interpret the dreams. He also gave Pharaoh wise advice. He suggested that Pharaoh should choose a wise and discerning man to be in charge of collecting and storing up extra food during the 7 good years. That way, when the famine came, Egypt would have enough food to survive. Pharaoh was so impressed. He said to his officials, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Pharaoh looked at Joseph and said, "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only I will be greater than you." Just like that, Joseph went from being a prisoner to being the second most powerful person in all of Egypt. Pharaoh gave him fine clothes, a gold chain, and a chariot. Joseph was no longer just a dreamer. He was a leader, making God's plan happen. For the next 7 years, Joseph traveled throughout Egypt, gathering and storing immense amounts of grain, just as he had planned. The storehouses were so full they couldn't even count it all. Then, just as the dreams had predicted, the 7 years of plenty ended and the 7 years of famine began. There was no food growing anywhere. But because of Joseph's wisdom, Egypt had food. People from all the surrounding countries started coming to Egypt to buy grain, because the famine was everywhere. Back in his old home, Jacob and his family were running out of food too. When Jacob heard there was grain in Egypt, he sent his 10 older sons to go and buy some. He kept his youngest son, Benjamin, at home, because he was afraid of losing him too. When the 10 brothers arrived in Egypt, they were brought before the powerful governor to ask for food. And guess who that governor was? It was Joseph. They didn't recognize him at all. He was dressed in fancy Egyptian clothes and spoke a different language, but Joseph recognized them immediately. His brothers, the ones who had sold him into slavery, were now bowing down before him, just like in his dreams from so many years ago. Joseph wanted to see if his brothers had changed. He tested them by being stern and pretending they were spies. He put them through a series of tests to see if they were sorry for what they had done, and if they cared for each other, especially for their youngest brother Benjamin. Finally, when he saw their true remorse and love for their family, Joseph couldn't hold it in any longer. He sent everyone else out of the room and, through his tears, he said, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers were speechless and terrified. They thought he would surely punish them. But Joseph said something amazing. He told them, "Don't be afraid. You meant to harm me, but God meant it for good. He sent me here ahead of you to save many lives." Joseph completely forgave his brothers. He hugged them and wept with joy. He told them to go back and bring their father Jacob and all their families to live in Egypt, where he would take care of them. And so, Jacob and his whole family moved to Egypt. The reunion between Jacob and his long-lost son, Joseph, was a beautiful moment. They were a family again, all thanks to God's incredible plan. Joseph's story shows us that even when bad things happen, God is always with us. He can take our biggest challenges and turn them into the greatest blessings. Remember, just like Joseph, we can trust God's plan, practice forgiveness, and know that He is always working for our good. Thanks for watching today's story, kids.